Of all the books I read in August, it wasn't really hard to pick a clear winner this time. What's up guys, welcome back to Unlimited Reads. My name is Chris and today I'll be doing my monthly wrap up for August, and stick around because I'll also be revealing my book of the month, and I've also got a little bit of show and tell at the end. So let's start with some channel highlights. There were two main highlights for me this month, the first of which of course was relaunching the channel after a period of feeling negative about things, then taking a step back, a bit of a break, looking at how I could reinvent things and just relaunch the channel with a brand new brand and brand new channel art, thumbnail art, just to freshen things up a little bit. And I was delighted to finally come up with a channel name that I was quite happy with, Unlimited Reads. It's short and snappy. It sounds much better than Hooked on Books with Chris. It's not as big a mouthful. And really happy with how things are going. I'm back better than ever and looking forward to putting out more content because I do feel refreshed about things now and looking forward to a lot of growth in the future. The second highlight for me was quite a surprise. As I was looking through my notifications on the channel, I was pleased one morning to wake up and see that one of my videos, last week's update video, was recommended by YouTube to everyone else. And that's the first time that's happened on the channel, and I was really chuffed about that because, you know, for YouTube to recommend a video to people certainly helps the confidence. And if anyone from YouTube is watching this as I upload it and they review the video, I'd like to thank YouTube for that. It means a lot, it's very much appreciated, and just gives me the confidence to keep going and producing more content as time goes on. So in August I read 7 books, but in between those books I've been making slow progress with Assassin's Quest, which is the 3rd book in the Farseer trilogy. And up until this point, look, I got quite a few pages read yesterday and I'm officially just over the halfway point. And my brother tells me that, you know, he's a big Robin Hobb fan and he's obviously read the trilogy, and he said that the second half of the book does really begin to pick up, and that gives me the confidence to finish it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the story ends. But there's going to be a delay in finishing it because there are a couple of distractions. The main one being, because today's Father's Day here in Australia, one of my presents was a book I've been after for a little while now, and that is Cobalt Blue by my favourite Australian author, Matthew Reilly. This is about superheroes, and it's only about 220 pages, and given that today is Sunday, I plan on sitting down later on and get through it in one sitting because it seems pretty easy to read. There's pictures in there, and it should be a wild ride, which is what you would expect from Matthew Reilly. So let's go through the books I actually finished this month, and the first one I'll chat about is A Blast from the Past from 1996, and that was Richard Lehmann's Body Rides, which is, I think, out of all his titles, this is probably one of the most famous. And I remember reading it in 1996 and enjoying it. It was classic Lehmann at his absolute best at the time, and the second time around it was pretty good. It's got plenty of sex and trash that Lehmann was renowned for before his passing in 2000, and it was pretty sad. I mean, he was such a prolific writer and he wrote so many good books, and I would have liked to have seen what he would have come up with next and how his writing would have evolved and what he would be writing today. So it was a bit sad. So the book is about the main character, Neil, who is on his way to return videos to the overnight return slot one night when he comes across a woman being attacked by some stranger in the middle of trying to rape her, and he shoots him and he believes he's dead, and the woman he rescues is very, very grateful, and in her gratitude gives him a very ornate gold bracelet which has the head of a serpent and green emeralds as its eyes, and she claims it has magical properties. And of course Neil at the start is very, very skeptical until he experiences what the bracelet can do. So what you do is you put the bracelet on, you kiss the serpent's head, and your soul or consciousness leaves your own body and you can inhabit the bodies of other people, and you can't influence anyone when you go into someone else's body. You're only along for the ride and you can only observe. And the possibilities of that kind of power are limitless. And throughout the book we see Neil work towards eventually having a final confrontation with the murderer, and a lot of complications along the way, including a very complicated love triangle and plenty of sex and violence, which it's classic Lehmann, right? But I think something that really interests me is when I read it through the second time, I thought that it could have been written in the first person rather than the third person. I think if you're going to be writing about having your soul enter into other people's bodies, to experience it from a first person point of view. And I think the story would have worked a lot better for that, because when he's inside another person's body, it gets a little bit confusing with what he's seeing and what the person he's inhabiting is seeing. So it gets a little bit mixed up. And I thought if he wrote in first person, it might have worked a little bit better. But the other thing about this book, given that in this day and age, I would probably consider this book as trashy. Now, Ollie over at Criminolly, if you haven't seen his channel, he's been doing really good work on his Garb August segment that he ran last month, and he has been doing really good work on shedding light on what qualifies as a trashy novel, and he has an awesome knowledge in this subject. And if he's watching this video, and I hope he is, I'd ask Ollie what his opinion would be. Would Richard Lehmann's Body Rides be classed as a trashy novel, Ollie? Let me know if you watch this. Let me know in the comments below. I'd be very interested in your opinion. But I think in this day and age, given that Lehmann was at his peak in the mid-90s, yeah, I would, class it as a trashy novel. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to Richard Lehmann at all. He's a brilliant writer, or was a brilliant writer, and having a novel referred to as being trashy isn't a derogatory or an insult or anything like that, because I have the utmost respect for Richard Lehmann. But certainly I would like Ollie's opinion on that. And I do know that he owns a few Lehmann titles himself, so I'd be really interested to see what he thinks. But quite a good ride. It took me a few days to read, but I just like how it's a rough reading copy, and I had a great time with it all round. The next book I'll talk about is The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. This book was an absolute treat for me. It was a very quick read because 2/3 of the book is made up of beautifully rendered grey lead drawings and cross-hatching techniques, and the pictures themselves tell the story in a storyboard format, which I think was a brilliant masterstroke from Selznick. And I'm looking forward to reading his follow-up called Wonderstruck as well, but I have reviewed that one on the channel, and check out my previous videos on that to get a bit more insight. But it is something I really enjoyed. I'd been aware of the book for quite some time when it came out in about 2011, I think, and I remember being in the book trade at that point, and remember selling it hand over fist. And I finally got my hands on a used copy at an op shop. I think I paid $4 for it, and they're just fantastic. They're a book to be treasured, really. I also read a really good new release thriller in August called 17, Last Man Standing. This was about a master assassin who was at the top of his game and eventually goes head to head with his predecessor, number 16, before they eventually team up and go up against the shadowy government agency that has betrayed them both. It was a really good book. It was full of action. It was very well written. It was very fast paced, and just overall really enjoyable. I also read 3 books by James Patterson this month. I picked up the third in a trilogy, and I didn't know that Escape was the third book in the trilogy. I thought it might have been a standalone, but it turns out there were 2 books that preceded it, and that was Black Book and Red Book. And I felt, well, look, I've bought Escape before I can read it. I felt compelled to read the first 2 before it, and I wasn't disappointed. It's about a Chicago detective called Billy Harney who actually gets shot in the head and recovers, and he has to unravel major conspiracies within the Chicago PD and face personal revelations that go that affect him on a really deep level in terms of his family and personal life, and solving cases at the same time. I thought they were really fast paced because I did read those 3 books back to back, and I think it took me a week to read the 3 of them. And with anything that James Patterson puts out, There's lots of chapters and there's lots of fast-paced action, and they're really fun books if you want a really quick read that don't take long at all, and it's just pure escapism. But I enjoyed all three of those, and I'm looking forward to reading a lot more James Patterson in the future. And finally, we come to my book of the month, which it's a very clear winner. It wasn't hard to pick this one out as my winner for August, but that was Genesis by Chris Carter. It's the 12th book in the Robert Hunter Detective series, and I have reviewed that in a previous video as well. If you haven't checked that out, please do. I go into a bit of detail on what I liked about it. It was pretty much flawless. It kept me wanting to read and read and read, and I found myself finding every opportunity to try and finish the thing, and that's what qualifies to me as a really good book of the month. It has to be compelling, it has to have really good twists, and it just has to be really well written. And I did mention in a previous video that out of all of Chris Carter's books, it used to be An Evil Mind that was my favourite, but after reading and closing the book on Genesis, we have a clear winner as being my new favourite book of the series. If you haven't read it, I recommend you do. You don't need to read all the other books before trying this one. It does read quite well on its own. There are vague references to previous cases, but nothing that ruins anything for you. And I guarantee if you read this one, you'll want to devour the entire backlist. So yeah, I'm really happy to pick that one. I enjoyed it immensely, and the sad fact is we've got to wait for the next Chris Carter book, which is the only negative to take away from that, because you know, some parts of the book were really graphic and really hard to read, and I think you just got to press on from that because of all the revelations you get, all the twists and turns, and a brilliant tied up ending. You can't ask for much more than that. And now for some show and tell. Yesterday I went book shopping in Dymocks in Melbourne's CBD, and that is a fantastic shop. It is a book supermarket, I kid you not. They have an information counter for just answering queries, and they have about 5 registers to put sales through. It literally has every book you could possibly want, and I managed to pick up something I've been after for a little while, and that is House of Leaves by Mark Delzeniewski, I think you pronounce his name. And this book has had a cult following for quite some time now, and I remember recently watching one of Ollie's videos at Criminolly, who gave his opinion on how you should read this book. And what makes it unique and quite remarkable is how it's set out. It's told from multiple viewpoints, and the interior text, I mean, you've got things like a typewriter font here, and you have things like very strange things like you've got all these X's here for whatever reason, I don't know. You have, let me have a look, some words have an upside down word on a single page. You have, look at this, musical notes. I think there's Braille in here as well. And let's have a look here. Things like, this is really strange, there's parts here, if I can find an example, you have some text where you have to put a mirror on it, and I'm just trying to find that page now, but you have big print in a script format here. It's really meant to mess with your head, and I've been told you have to commit to it, and it's just told in a variety of different formats and a crossed out red font. So it is going to be a real eye-opener for me, and it was expensive enough, but it's a book I wanted to read for a little while, and my younger brother tells me that it's very divisive among the fan base. It can go either way, so it's going to be very interesting to see by the time I finish it which side of the fence I sit on. And yeah, it's going to take a bit of commitment because it will take a little while to get through. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I think it's a book that's worthy of doing a potential video vlog for, and we'll see how it goes. But it was definitely a decent purchase, and yeah, fairly expensive, but well worth it, I think. So we'll see what comes of that, and I'll be sure to let you know on the channel. That is it for my monthly wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what your favourite book was for August, and any feedback you have, please put that below in the comments, and I'm always up for a chat. And more importantly, just let me know what you might want to see on the channel moving forward. If you have any suggestions that you want to make, I'm always up for that kind of feedback, and I'm always up for trying something new. But yeah, that was my month. So thank you very much again for watching, and until next time, see you later.